The transmission that broke the galaxy. The MedStar Hope had been in the Tertian sector for 3 months, orbiting the shattered moon of Valora 7, where a refugee crisis had displaced nearly 2 million souls. The hospital ship was a marvel of Terran engineering. 2 kilometers of gleaming white hull adorned with the universal symbol of medical neutrality. The Red Cross, visible from orbit, painted large enough to be seen by any sensor array in the system. Dr. Sarah Chen stood in the observation deck, watching the supply shuttles ferry medicine and food to the surface. Behind her, the medical bay hummed with controlled chaos. 30 species, hundreds of patients, all receiving care without question of allegiance or credit. This was humanity's promise to the galaxy. Where there is suffering, we will come. Dr. Chen to the bridge. The intercom crackled. Something in Captain Morrison's voice made her heart skip. She arrived to find the bridge crew staring at their displays in rigid silence. Captain James Morrison, a 20-year veteran who'd served on hospital ships across 3 sectors, stood with his hands gripping the command console. "Zaruri warships," he said quietly. 3 destroyers. "They've locked weapons on us." Sarah's blood ran cold. "That's impossible. We're broadcasting medical neutrality on every frequency. The Red Cross is—" "They know what we are, Doctor." Morrison's jaw was tight. "They're hailing us." The viewscreen flickered. A Zaruri commander appeared. Reptilian features, golden eyes that reflected no warmth. The Zaruri Dominion had been expanding aggressively for 5 years, swallowing systems, enslaving populations. But even they had respected the sanctity of medical vessels. Until now. "Terran vessel," the Zaruri commander hissed. "You harbor enemies of the Dominion. The Velaran rebels received your medical aid. You have chosen your side." Morrison stepped forward. "Commander, we are a neutral medical vessel operating under—" "There is no neutrality. Only submission or destruction. You have 60 seconds to abandon ship." The transmission cut. Morrison turned to his crew. "All hands, this is the captain. Emergency evacuation protocol. Medical staff, begin patient transfer to—" "Sir?" The tactical officer interrupted, his voice breaking. "They're not waiting." The first plasma lance struck the aft medical bay. The ship shuddered. Alarm screamed. "Shield generators offline." Someone shouted. "Hull breach, sections 12 through 15. Sarah grabbed the console as another impact threw her sideways. Through the viewport, she could see escape pods launching, too few, too slow. The second destroyer had moved into firing position. Morrison slammed his fist on the emergency broadcast system. "This is Captain James Morrison of the Terran hospital ship MedStar Hope to any vessel in range. We are under attack by Zaruri forces while conducting humanitarian operations. We are a medical neutral vessel. We have—" The third impact vaporized the port side. The artificial gravity failed. Sarah felt herself floating, then falling as the ship began to spin. Emergency lights bathed everything in red. The same red as the cross they'd painted on their hull in defiance of the void. Morrison pulled himself to the communication array, blood streaming from a gash on his forehead. His hands moved with purpose, encoding a final transmission with humanity's military emergency beacon. "This is Captain Morrison. Final message. 3,214 souls aboard. Medical personnel, refugees, patients from 37 worlds. The Zaruri Dominion fired on a hospital ship. They knew what we were. They fired anyway." His voice cracked. "Tell Earth. Tell Earth that mercy was the best of us. Tell them." The explosion tore through the command deck. 16 hours later. Earth. United Terran Command. Geneva. Fleet Admiral Marcus Steele had not slept in 30 years of service. He'd seen war, peace, first contact, and everything between. But when the message from MedStar Hope finished playing in the emergency council chambers, he felt something he'd forgotten: pure, crystalline rage. The holographic display showed the ship's final moments. The red cross illuminated against the black. The plasma fire. The debris field that had once been 3,000 lives. The council chamber was silent. They broadcast their neutrality. Someone finally whispered. The red cross was visible from— "They knew," Steele said quietly. His voice cut through the room like a blade. The Zaruri knew exactly what they were destroying. The Secretary General stood. "Admiral, we must consider our response carefully. The Zaruri Dominion has 40 star systems. Our fleet is spread across—" "Recall them, I'm sorry." Steele turned, and every person in that room felt the weight of his gaze. "Recall every warship. Every destroyer, cruiser, carrier, and battleship. Every vessel that can mount a weapon and survive a fight. He pulled up a star chart. The Zaruri want to teach us a lesson about neutrality? About the cost of showing mercy in their territory? He zoomed in on the Zaruri home system. Then let's teach them what happens when you make humanity stop being merciful. The Secretary General's face went pale. Admiral, you're talking about total war. The political ramifications are irrelevant. Steele's voice was ice. They didn't fire on a warship. They didn't destroy a military target. They murdered doctors, nurses, aid workers, and refugees under the symbol of medical neutrality. That Red Cross was sacred. It meant that even in war, even in the darkest corners of this galaxy, there were lines we didn't cross. He activated the fleet-wide channel. This is Fleet Admiral Marcus Steele to all Terran vessels. Authorization code Omega Black 7. Execute recall protocol Vengeance. Return to Earth immediately. Leave skeleton crews on stations. This is not a drill. Across the galaxy, humanity's warships received the transmission. Captains read the orders once, then twice, unable to believe what they were seeing. Recall protocol Vengeance had never been activated. It was a theoretical contingency, a nightmare scenario. It meant that every line had been crossed. It meant that Earth had stopped asking for peace and started demanding retribution on the command deck of the HSS Vengeance, humanity's newest dreadnought. 2.5 kilometers of weapons and armor. Admiral Steele watched the fleet assemble. 83 warships had arrived in the first 12 hours. More were coming. His tactical officer approached.
Sir, we're receiving inquiries from allied species.
The Correlation Accord, the Free Traders Union, even the Kethric Empire. They're asking about our intentions. Tell them the truth, Steele said. Tell them that humanity is going to war. Tell them why. And tell them that anyone who stands between us and the Zaruri Dominion will be treated as hostile. Sir, the galaxy wanted to know what humanity valued most. Steele interrupted, his eyes fixed on the growing fleet. They thought it was profit or territory or power. They were wrong. He pulled up the image of MedStar Hope one last time, the red cross shining against the stars. We value mercy. We value healing. We value the idea that even in the darkness someone will come to help. His voice dropped to a whisper. And when you destroy that? When you fire on the people who come to heal instead of harm? The fleet assembly was complete. 127 warships, humanity's entire military might, gathered in formation. Then you learn that mercy wasn't weakness. It was the only thing keeping us civilized. Admiral Steele sat in his command chair. All ships, plot course for the Zaruri home system, maximum burn, and broadcast this message on all frequencies. Humanity is coming, and we will not be bringing medical supplies. The fleet that answered in fire, the Zaruri Dominion, had ruled 40 star systems for 3 generations. Their expansion had been methodical, brutal, and unstoppable. They had shattered the Kethric resistance in 8 months, absorbed the free colonies in a year, and made even the mighty Correlation Accord think twice about challenging their Borders High Command on Zeroth Prime had learned that power respected only greater power, which is why Minister Cruven watched the tactical display with growing confusion. Terran ships? He hissed, his tail lashing. How many? 127 capital vessels, Minister, the sensor operator reported. Battleships, carriers, cruisers. They're traveling in formation. Current trajectory puts them here. The display highlighted the Zaruri home system. Cruven's secondary eyes narrowed. Impossible. Terran forces are scattered across their territory. This is their entire fleet. Yes, Minister. For one hospital ship? Yes, Minister. Cruven had overseen the MedStar Hope incident himself. It had been a calculated move, a message to the galaxy that medical neutrality was a fiction, that the Zaruri recognized no sanctuary, no exceptions. The refugees on Valora 7 had been harboring resistance fighters. The Terran ship had been healing them. By Zaruri logic, this made it a legitimate target. The humans would file protests, perhaps withdraw their medical ships from Zaruri space. Acceptable losses, this was insanity. Mobilize the defense fleet, Cruven ordered. 300 vessels should be sufficient to turn them back. And open a channel. I'll speak to their commander. Aboard the HSS Vengeance approaching Zaruri space. Admiral, incoming transmission from Zaruri High Command. Admiral Steele didn't look up from the battle map. Put it through. War Minister Cruvin appeared on screen, his translator rendering his hissing speech into flat, measured English. Admiral Steele, your aggressive approach to Dominion space is noted and unwelcome. I urge you to turn back before this becomes a regrettable incident. Steele folded his hands. Minister Cruvin, the regrettable incident occurred 16 days ago, when your forces destroyed a hospital ship. The vessel was providing aid to enemies of the Dominion. It was a legitimate military target under the Red Cross. Steele's voice cut through like a laser. Under the universal symbol of medical neutrality, recognized by every civilized species for 300 years. You didn't just attack a Terran vessel, Minister. You attacked an idea. Cruvin's eyes glittered. You would risk total war over a single ship? Over an idea? Yes. Steele leaned forward. Because that idea, that there are some places violence doesn't reach, that healing is sacred, that mercy has meaning, that idea is the only thing separating civilization from barbarism. You destroyed it. Now we're going to destroy you. Admiral, you command 127 ships. We have 300 defending this system alone, with reinforcements from... I know your numbers, Minister. I also know that you've never faced an enemy that wasn't fighting for territory or resources or political leverage. Steele's eyes were cold. You've never fought someone who came to your home system for only one reason, to make absolutely certain you understand what you've done. You cannot win this engagement, Admiral. We don't need to win, Minister. We need to make a point. Steele nodded to his communications officer. Broadcast this message on all frequencies, all languages, maximum range. The signal went out across the galaxy. This is Fleet Admiral Marcus Steele of the Terran Coalition. 16 days ago, the Zaruri Dominion fired on the hospital ship MedStar Hope, killing 3,214 medical personnel, aid workers, and refugees under the protection of medical neutrality. They murdered doctors. They murdered nurses. They murdered children who had been brought aboard for treatment. The Zaruri High Command has offered no apology. They have claimed this was a legitimate military action. They have stated that there is no neutrality, only submission or destruction. Very well. Humanity has come to deliver their answer. Any vessel that wishes to evacuate Zaruri space has 12 hours. After that, we will consider all ships, stations, and installations within this system to be hostile targets. To the other species of the galaxy, watch what happens next. Watch what happens when you fire on a Red Cross. Watch what happens when humanity stops sending doctors and starts sending warships. The MedStar Hope asked for mercy. We're not here for that, we're here for justice. The transmission ended. Cruvin's face twisted. You think you can intimidate the Dominion with speeches? With righteous anger? We are a warrior species, Admiral. We do not... You're about to become an extinct species, Minister. Unless you surrender in the next 10 hours. Steele's voice was flat. Those are the terms. Full unconditional surrender. Prosecution of every officer involved in the MedStar incident. Reparations to every family. And a guarantee enforced by permanent Terran military presence that you will never, ever, fire on a medical vessel again. Absurd. You are outnumbered. You are in our space. Your bravado may impress lesser species, but we... Steele cut the transmission. His executive officer cleared her throat. Sir, the Zaruri Defense Fleet is forming up. 312 vessels. Admiral, they're positioning to engage. Good. Steele stood. All ships, battle stations. Formation Delta 7. Carrier groups to the rear. Battleships forward. And someone get me a firing solution on their command station. Admiral, his tactical officer said quietly. Even if we win this engagement, casualties will be unacceptable. I know. Steele looked at the display showing the Zaruri fleet. Which is why we're not going to fight fair. He activated the fleet channel. All ships, this is Admiral Steele. The Zaruri believe they're facing a standard naval engagement. They believe their numbers and defensive positions give them the advantage. They're wrong on both counts. Execute Gambit Protocol 7. Across the fleet, captains read their orders and felt their blood run cold. Gambit Protocol 7 was a last resort tactic, something that existed only in classified files. It required every ship to operate at maximum reactor output, pushing engines and weapons beyond safety limits. It was a tactic you used when survival was less important than sending a message. 8 hours later, Battle of Zeroth Prime. The Zaruri defense fleet moved to intercept at the system's edge, a wall of 300 ships arranged in overlapping fields of fire. It was a formation that had shattered 2 separate invasion attempts in the last decade. Admiral Steele's fleet didn't slow down. All ships, weapons free. Target their heavy cruisers first. I want their command and control offline in the first 60 seconds. The range closed. The Zaruri opened fire first, a devastating barrage of plasma and kinetic weapons that would have crippled a conventional fleet. The Terran ships didn't dodge. They didn't maneuver. They fired back. The HSS Vengeance led the charge, its main cannons tearing through Zaruri shields like paper. Behind it, 126 warships unleashed everything they had. Railguns, missiles, particle beams, plasma torpedoes, centuries of human weapons engineering, all focused on a single objective. The Zaruri fleet disintegrated in the opening salvo. Cruiser Group Delta destroyed, Tactical reported. Destroyer screen in Sector 4 is breaking apart. They're trying to retreat. Don't let them. Steele's voice was granite. Every ship that fired on the MedStar Hope. Every ship that received the order and obeyed. I want them dust. The battle became a massacre. The Zaruri had never faced an enemy willing to trade ships for kills. An enemy that pushed their reactors beyond redline and kept firing even as their own hulls buckled. 3 Terran destroyers went critical, their reactors overloading. Their crews evacuated seconds before the ships exploded, taking out a dozen Zaruri vessels in the blast. They're calling for reinforcements, communications reported. Jam them. Nothing gets in or out of this system. Steele pulled up the tactical display. Half the Zaruri fleet was gone. The other half was trying to regroup around their command station. Sir, his executive officer said carefully, we've made our point. If we press this, we're not here to make a point, Steele interrupted. We're here to make sure this never happens again. Target their command station. All heavy weapons. Admiral, there are civilians on... War Minister Cruvin is on that station. The officers who gave the order to fire are on that station. Steele's eyes were hollow. They can evacuate. They have 5 minutes. The warning went out. The command station began launching escape pods. 4 minutes and 30 seconds later, the HSS Vengeance and 15 battleships fired simultaneously. The station's shields held for almost 10 seconds before collapsing. The structure broke apart in silence, debris scattering across orbital space. The battle was over. Of the 312 Zaruri vessels, 17 remained. They broadcast their surrender on all frequencies. Admiral Steele looked at the casualty reports. 11 Terran ships lost, 4,208 crew members dead. He thought of the MedStar Hope. 3,214 souls. Broadcast to the galaxy, he said quietly. The Zaruri Dominion fired on a medical vessel. Humanity has responded. Let it be known, the Red Cross is sacred. It will always be sacred, and anyone who forgets that will answer to us. Mercy was the warning. The aftermath of the Battle of Zeroth Prime rippled across the galaxy like a shockwave through subspace. Within 24 hours, every major government had convened emergency sessions. The Correlation Accord, the Free Traders Union, the Kethric Empire, the Andali Consortium, species who had warred with each other for centuries sat together in stunned silence, watching the footage of humanity's response. 1. Hospital Ship 127 warships in retaliation. The destruction of the Zaruri home. Defense Fleet. The galaxy was reevaluating everything it knew about humans. Correlation Accord chambers. Nexus Station High Counselor Vethra watched the battle recording for the 5th time. Her species, the Correlation, had been spacefaring for 8,000 years. They had seen empires rise and fall. They had witnessed atrocities that would make lesser species weep. But this was different. They lost 4,000 soldiers, Counselor Drex observed, for a hospital ship. The mathematics of it make no sense. You're calculating wrong, Vethra said softly. They didn't lose 4,000 soldiers. They spent 4,000 lives as a down payment on a promise. What promise? That they mean what they say. That their values aren't negotiable. That mercy isn't weakness, it's the line in the sand. She turned off the display. Do you know what terrifies me most about this, Drex? It's not that they came with overwhelming force. It's that they came immediately, 16 days from attack to response. No diplomatic channels exhausted. No sanctions. No warnings, just retribution. Drex shifted uncomfortably. They're saying humans are the most dangerous species in the galaxy now? No. Vethra pulled up another file. Footage from 50 years ago. A human medical team on Correlation Prime, working through a plague that had killed millions. The same Red Cross on their uniforms. They're the same species that has saved more lives than any other in galactic history. They're the same species that responds to every disaster with aid ships before anyone asks. That's what makes this terrifying. I don't understand. They came to the galaxy as healers first. Doctors, mercy givers. They built that reputation intentionally over a century. And then the Zaruri taught everyone what happens when you violate that mercy. Vethra's eyes met his. Humanity isn't dangerous because they're violent. They're dangerous because they're righteous. Because they actually believe in the things they say they value, and they'll die for them. The Zaruri Dominion 17 days after the battle. War Minister Kruven had survived by being on a shuttle during the station's destruction. He stood now in the temporary command center on Zeroth Prime's surface, watching the Terran occupation force establish orbit. 127 ships had been reduced to 94. But Admiral Steele had reinforced his position with orbital platforms, defense drones, and a no-fly zone that covered half the system. The surrender terms had been broadcast. Complete disarmament of the Dominion military, war crimes trials for all officers involved in the MedStar Hope incident, reparations in the amount of 10 trillion credits, permanent Terran monitoring stations in all Zaruri systems, mandatory protection of all medical vessels in perpetuity. They're dismantling everything, General Scar said quietly. 3 generations of military expansion gone in 3 weeks. Kruven's tail lashed once, then went still. We miscalculated. Miscalculated? Scar's voice was bitter. Minister, we destroyed one ship. How were we to know they'd... We should have known. Kruven turned from the viewport. They told us. Every medical ship they sent to disaster zones. Every rescue operation. Every aid convoy that traveled through war zones without weapons. They were telling us, this is what we value. We just didn't listen. A junior officer approached. Minister, the humans are broadcasting something. All frequencies. Kruven closed his eyes. Show me. Admiral Steele's final broadcast. The face that appeared on screens across Zaruri space was weathered, older than his years. Admiral Marcus Steele sat not in a command chair, but in a simple room with a window showing the blue-green planet of Zeroth Prime behind him. This is Fleet Admiral Marcus Steele to the people of the Zaruri Dominion. In 17 days we have destroyed your defense fleet, occupied your home system, and extracted surrender from your government. Your military is being disbanded. Your leadership is facing justice. Your territory is under Terran oversight. You are wondering why. Why one ship mattered so much. Why humanity came with such fury for a single act of violence in a galaxy full of violence. Let me tell you about the MedStar Hope. Dr. Sarah Chen was 32. She'd spent 8 years working in disaster zones, healing anyone who needed it. Captain James Morrison was 47. He'd commanded hospital ships his entire career because he believed medicine should reach everyone. There were 3,214 souls aboard that ship. Doctors, nurses, engineers, aid workers. They came from 23 different Terran nations. They spoke 40 languages between them. And they all believed in something simple, that mercy matters. That even in war, even in the darkest places, someone should come to heal instead of harm. Your government destroyed them because they healed your enemies, because they showed mercy where you demanded submission. So let me be absolutely clear about what happens next. Humanity will rebuild your defense capabilities, slowly, carefully, and with oversight. We will work with your population to establish a government that doesn't believe medical neutrality is an optional concept. We will station ships in your system not to conquer, but to ensure that what happened to the MedStar Hope never happens again. Not here, not anywhere. And then we will leave. Because we're not an empire. We're not conquerors. We don't want your territory or your resources. We just wanted you to understand that the Red Cross wasn't a target. It was a warning. It meant these people come in peace. They carry no weapons. They will heal anyone, even you. And if you harm them, you will face every warship humanity possesses. The MedStar Hope is gone, but its mission continues. We're bringing 3 new hospital ships to orbit your world. They'll carry the same Red Cross. They'll treat your wounded, your sick, your injured without question of loyalty or payment. And every time you see that red cross, I want you to remember, mercy is humanity's greatest strength. It's what separates us from the darkness. It's what we will fight for, die for, and kill for. The Zaruri Dominion learned this lesson the hard way. Let the rest of the galaxy learn it peacefully. Mercy is sacred. Violate it and you'll face the consequences. Honor it and you'll find humanity the most generous ally you've ever known. The transmission ended. 6 months later, Earth, Geneva. Admiral Marcus Steele stood at the memorial wall, his hand pressed against the cold stone. 3,214 names were carved there, each one a life lost aboard the MedStar Hope. Behind him, the newest hospital ship was preparing for launch. The MedStar Hope II, larger, better equipped, and escorted by 3 destroyers that would remain at a discreet distance. Admiral. He turned. A young ensign stood at attention. The Secretary General wants to know if you'll attend the ceremony. Which ceremony? The Zaruri Dominion is signing the Medical Neutrality Accords. 37 other species are signing as well. They're calling it the Hope Accords. Steele looked back at the wall, at the names. Tell the Secretary General I'll be there. As he walked away, he passed a group of medical students heading to their training ship. They wore crisp white uniforms with the Red Cross emblazoned on the shoulder. One of them glanced at him, recognized the Admiral's insignia, and straightened. Steele nodded once. The student had no idea that the man walking past her had burned an empire to ash to keep that Red Cross sacred, and that was how Steele preferred it. Mercy was still humanity's first response. Healing was still what they sent to the stars, but now the galaxy knew, really knew, that behind every medical ship, behind every aid convoy, behind every rescue mission, stood the full weight of human retribution. Mercy was sacred, and vengeance was human.